is what we know. So just a few minutes ago, Lopez was spotted driving that Chevy Silverado pickup. That information had gone out across Texas, and it was actually law enforcement in Atascosa County that spotted Gonzalo Lopez driving that Chevy Silverado. At that time, they trailed Gonzalo, and then ultimately the tires were spiked on that vehicle. After a short chase and a crash, Gonzalo Lopez exited the Chevy Silverado with a firearm and engaged law enforcement officers who engaged back and ultimately killed Lopez. Again, Gonzalo Lopez has been captured and he is deceased. Any other questions?
What time did this happen at?
We believe that this happened probably about 30 minutes ago or so.
Any law enforcement officers struck?
Fortunately, no law enforcement officers were struck. It's my understanding he fired several rounds at officers and was armed with an AR-15 and a pistol, and I believe multiple officers engaged Lopez, ultimately shooting and killing him.
What was the law enforcement agency?
I don't know exactly. I know it happened in Atascosa County, and I believe the name of the town is Journeyton. That could be a mispronunciation by me, but it's in Atascosa County, and that's where the ultimately Journeyton, is that correct? Is where ultimately the interaction took place.
Do you
When
have
do
any
you believe he got
information
the
on
AR-15 from?
It's an assumption at this point, but given that he was in the vehicle that was taken from this residence, it's likely that those firearms came from this residence. The actual shootout, it's my understanding that it did happen in a residential area, that after crashing, I believe, into a tree, Lopez exited out of the vehicle, only made it a short amount of distance before he decided to engage officers. And thankfully for the swift action of those officers, they were able to take Lopez into custody.
How it kind of originated?
I know that a bolo went out across the state, and so they were certainly cognizant of South Texas and the San Antonio area because he had previous contacts in that area. And it's our understanding that law enforcement spotted that vehicle on a roadway, and the license plate matched the bolo, and so that's when they began to tail Lopez in that vehicle. Ultimately, that vehicle was spiked after a short chase in which Lopez crashed out and decided to engage law enforcement officers, and those officers very swiftly shot and killed Lopez, bringing this whole ordeal to an end.
What weapons did he fire? I know he had multiple weapons, but did he use all of them?
I don't know specifically what weapons he used, but I do know that he was armed with a rifle and a handgun.
Where does the investigation go from here now that he's deceased?
Sure, so it's something that the Texas Rangers will be leading up that investigation, along with our Office of Inspector General, who will be closely involved in that investigation.
And were you guys able to find any of the clothes here that you have on when you left with us?
I can tell you that they're still at the scene at this moment. So Lopez is deceased. Law enforcement is there. They're processing that scene as we speak, and so there's some information that I just don't have at the moment. I do want to take a moment, though, and really thank law enforcement. Leon County Sheriff has been extraordinary and continues to be. Our partners at DPS, the Office of Inspector General, U.S. Marshals, just so many different law enforcement agencies contributed to this, and just very thankful for all of the support that they have provided. And I'm thankful that this came to a resolution in which Lopez did not harm anyone else.
As a leader, what's your reaction that this man is off the streets?
I can just tell you that we are very saddened that the murders happened, but I will tell you that we are breathing a sigh of relief that Lopez will not be able to hurt anyone else.
Will TDCJ be adjusting their protocols to ensure that nothing like this happens again?
As I said earlier, we will conduct a serious incident review. Anytime you have something serious like this, it's incumbent upon us to go backwards to figure out, how did he escape? How did he beat our security protocols in order to leave that transport vehicle? And so that's something that we absolutely will be doing. We will uncover how he did it and then make any adjustments that are necessary.
He's obviously not your typical dangerous inmate, because I mean he was able to do it like years ago, right? I mean there's something about him, right, that makes him very unique when it comes to this situation.
Absolutely. Gonzalo Lopez had a history of trying to elude law enforcement. And so we knew from his records that previously he had stayed out in the wilderness for quite some time. And so that's why we remained in this area, because we did not have evidence that put him out of this area. I will tell you that obviously U.S. Marshals and Texas Rangers and our Office of Inspector General were closely monitoring any contacts that he had ever had in the free world to see if he had contacted them, reached out to them. And that was very unsuccessful. And so we still had a thought that he could be in this area, and that's why we continue to have a presence in this area. And it wasn't until this afternoon that it became clear that he remained in this area.
Jason, with the victims, I didn't say the right answer, but did the victims walk in on Lopez?
Frankly, it's just too early to tell. We do believe that the victims were there today. It's unclear whether Lopez was already there or was casing the structure and just waiting for someone to come in.
What's the feeling now that this is over? You know, it was an exhaustive search for a few weeks there. Are you guys relieved? Just kind of, what's that feeling?
I will just, again, it is... I will say that this is an absolute tragedy. The fact that 4 individuals... I would say that this is a tragedy that you had 5 individuals who lost their lives. And so I am thankful that tonight Gonzalo Lopez is unable to harm anyone else.
Do you know if TDCJ has leading to the deaths of these 5 people that he was able to escape?
Sure. You know, as I said earlier, that will be part of us going backwards to determine how that escape happened and taking any precautions that we need to take in order to prevent that from happening in the future.
Being obviously this is a tragedy, do you have any words to say to the family?
I don't. I can't imagine the grief and suffering that they're going through, and so my words would fall flat.
Have they been contacted?
And when we can expect those IDs?
That would be something I'd encourage you to talk to Leon County Sheriff. Obviously, this has happened in their jurisdiction. They're working closely with DPS in order to process that crime scene. So I would expect that the sheriff likely would release that information and not TDCJ.
What are some things that TDCJ possibly learned, and could we see that you all move to the inmate who has been on the run for 11 years now and kind of exhaust the efforts that were on this one for Lopez to try to find that inmate?
I assume you're talking about Busto Diaz.
Yes, sir.
So, and I'll just speak to that. It's something that we don't ever stop. We don't rest. And even for Busto Diaz, who we believe is in Mexico, and that we'll continue to search for forever. Thank you.
So we can confirm Gonzalo Lopez has been shot and killed in a shootout with law enforcement and is now pronounced dead. Thanks for watching KX News at 10. You can catch all the latest on Gonzalo Lopez at kxtv.com, our YouTube page, and make sure you watch KX TV tomorrow to get the latest. Good night.